Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:01. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, producer Pete Coles. Good morning, Pete.
Good morning.
Pete is recovering from the holiday weekend, I think, the 4th of July. You were busy here, right, Pete?
Busy on Friday, and then I worked on Saturday at my other job, and then Sunday I was over at my brother's, and then it's just running around all day.
Yeah. Pete's a little tired this morning.
I think I'm operating at a sleep deficit is what they call it.
Well, I think so, too. I think,
after
a while it catches up with you.
Well, still working the split shifts, too, where I'm working in the morning, and then I work till about noon, and then I have meetings at night every single night. I think again this week.
Still, right? So which now
not slowing down.
I know some of the boards don't meet in the summertime, but is it the planning board that's doing a lot of meeting?
But a lot of them still are. I mean, last night we had, for the first time, the Water Commission hasn't met since March. So, boards are starting to meet, and they're like, well, we got stuff to catch up on, so we might have meetings in August. And so, it's just, the government business still has to go on, and now people are starting to play catch up. So Community Preservation Commission, which hasn't met, I don't think they've met at all since I've been doing this. Yeah. They're meeting this week, and there was something else. I can't remember. And then Fire Commission is meeting. Council on Aging Board, you guys haven't met in a couple months. Yep. So, this is all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and what happened last month was that we have to send our agenda in 48 business hours before the meeting. And I absolutely just forgot. I mean, I was so caught up with trying to get meals out there for, the seniors and all the other stuff. And Jim Liptak, who's chair of my board, had called me Friday. Our meetings are Monday at 1. So I have to have the agenda in by Thursday at 1. And normally I have it in like a week in advance. And, so Jim Liptak had called me and said, okay, is there anything that we need to talk about, be ahead of the meeting on Monday? And I went, oh, my God, I completely forgot.
Well, and that's the thing, too. Sometimes I don't get notice about these until 48 hours beforehand.
Yeah. I try to give as much, time as I can for everyone involved. Especially now because you're not just doing your agenda and planning that, but you're also, planning on your Zoom or, are you doing it by phone? Or are you doing it by Zoom? And your board members have to know that. So
most people have gone to Zoom, like the Fire Commission. The commissioners want to meet in person, but then I still have to broadcast it. So that means I have to go where they are and figure out how to broadcast the audio and stuff like that. So it becomes just a whole thing. Yeah.
It's a challenge.
It is still a challenge,
It's a challenge. Well, Pete, I want to thank you for loaning me the webcam because I had my first meeting. It wasn't a Zoom meeting. It was actually a WebEx, I think, meeting. Yep. I'm on the community advisory board for Bay State Noble Hospital. So we had our meeting last week, and it was the first time where I could see and be seen and be heard, and it was pretty cool. I have to say, it was really great. So thank you for the loaner.
Luckily, I had some equipment kicking around still that still works. So
I know that was perfect. It was so great though. It's kind of the new way of doing things. I mean, I think people are getting used to, kind of doing it at. It's so funny when you do a Zoom meeting, and I'm kind of trying to figure out where are these people. Some people are in their study at home, or their bedroom at home, or their kitchen at home, or somewhere in their office. Some do those funky things like you do here with a scene behind them.
Yeah, you can put a background behind you.
Yeah, which is, it's a funny story about that. So the Western Mass COA directors meet every 2 weeks via Zoom. And, of course, up until now, I've been on the phone, but I can see all of them. So I put their Zoom thing up on my computer. And I'm looking at the director from Ware. His name is John. And I keep thinking, wow, where is he vacationing? I mean, this is amazing, because he's got like the beach behind him. And, it was so funny. So I seriously, this was like 2 months ago, seriously thought he was, on an island or down in Florida or someplace. And
Councilor Flaherty has some really cool backgrounds.
I was going to say, Dave Flaherty has a few that I noticed with some of the city council meetings that he's put up.
Yeah, he's got some good ones back there.
Well, it's what the heck? You might as well have some fun with all of this. I mean, there's a lot to be depressed about. So when you can have a few minutes of. Plus, I kept looking at the background from the guy, from the director in Ware, and I just kept thinking, I would so love to be wherever he is right now.
I can show you how to do that.
Yeah, I would love that. That would be great.
Yeah, you can load any picture from your computer as your background.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Well, yeah, you have to show me how to do that.
And so yesterday, coming up at 8 o'clock this morning,
yes.
we'll have to go right on time, but
okay,
coming
that's
up
fine.
Coming up at 8 o'clock this morning, I took off my producer hat and put on my host hat, and I interviewed former Colonel, now Brigadier General Peter Green.
Wow.
So he came in. He's moving. He's going back to becoming a traditional guardsman, but he got a promotion to state headquarters, and he's moving to North Carolina.
Wow.
And he'll be commuting now for his traditional, 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks a year guard duties. But now he's at the state headquarters, and he's the Assistant Adjutant General for the Air Guard.
Wow. That's great.
Yep.
So
1-star general now.
Where did you interview him, Pete?
Right here.
Did he come in or did
yes,
you do it?
He came down
he
here.
came in. Mm-hmm.
Yep, he came down here.
Perfect.
And we had a nice hour-long chat, which he was like, wow, we talked for an hour. I'm like, yeah, we only took one break.
You know what? It flies by. If you have a guest that has a lot to say and you're interested in the topic, it just goes by so quickly. How many people, Pete, have we interviewed over the years who said, oh, you're going to have me on for an hour or you're going to have me on for 45 minutes. And when we're done, it's like, we're done? Yeah. I felt like it was 15 minutes. Wait, I had so much more to say.
Right, and he does have a lot to say. He 38 years in the Guard so far.
Yeah. Oh, I bet he does.
We had a great chat yesterday. We're going to air that at 8 o'clock.
Good, perfect. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of changes that he has seen over, 38 years is a long time.
Yeah, and we kind of focused on his career to kind of give kids that are on the fence or a roadmap as to this could be a potential parallel career to what you're doing in the real world. So
little perspective on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. It was pretty
great. Good. Well, today is July 8th, so let's do a couple of birthdays before we take our first break. So July 8th is the birthday of the late John D. Rockefeller, industrialist. He was born July 8th, 1839 in Richford, New York. He lived to the ripe old age of 97, so he lived a long life. Yeah. Unafraid of hard work, Rockefeller embarked on a number of small business ventures as a teenager, landing his first real office job at age 16 as an assistant bookkeeper with Hewitt and Tuttle commission merchants and produce shippers. By the age of 20, John D. Rockefeller ventured out on his own with a business partner, working as a commission merchant in hay, meats, grains, and other goods. At the close of the company's first year in business, it had grossed $450,000. Now, you got to put that in perspective. I mean, this was back in, 1859.
Sure.
That's a lot of money for a 20-year-old, by the way.
Yeah.
Rockefeller sensed an opportunity in the oil business in the early 1860s. In 1863, he opened his first refinery, and within 2 years, it was the largest in the area, and he did that in the Ohio area. He just kind of felt like close to Pittsburgh and Cleveland and, had mapped that out. In 1870, Rockefeller and his associates incorporated the Standard Oil Company, which immediately prospered. With success came acquisitions as Standard began buying out its competitors. By 1882, Rockefeller had a near monopoly of the oil business in the United States. Controlling or owning almost every aspect of the business, Standard's grip on the industry tightened, and it even bought thousands of acres of forest for lumber and drilling and to block competitors from running their own pipelines. Ultimately, Rockefeller's business practices led to the passing of antitrust laws, most notably the Sherman Antitrust Act. Late in life, Rockefeller devoted himself to philanthropy. In total, he gave away more than $530 million to various causes.
I remember seeing his story on the History Channel thing, ran a mini-series called The Men Who Made America.
Oh, yeah.
And he was one of the featured people. And he
bet.
was a ruthless businessman.
Oh, yeah.
Nice guy, apparently, but ruthless businessman.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, look at what he did. It's like, okay, I want to, squash out my competitors, so I'll do everything I can to do that.
Yep.
Now, here's an interesting fact. It is also the birthday of the late Nelson Rockefeller, businessman and legislator who was the grandson of John Rockefeller. So they had the same birthday. So He was born, Nelson Rockefeller was born July 8th, 1908 in Bar Harbor, Maine. And he died in 1979 at the age of 70. Nelson Rockefeller was a grandson of John D. Rockefeller Sr., founder of Standard Oil. After working in business and government, In 1958, Nelson Rockefeller was elected governor of New York, serving 4 terms.
Yep.
In 1974, he was appointed vice president of the United States by Gerald Ford. An avid art collector and patron, Rockefeller died in New York City in 1979. A wing of New York's Metropolitan Museum of Art is named in his honor. Now, I did not remember Rockefeller ever being vice president. I kept looking at that going, did he run with someone as their vice president candidate? But he was vice president.
Who was he vice president?
He was
under?
Ford, Gerald Ford, in 1974.
Well, Ford got in because of Nixon resigning.
Right.
So maybe he was an appointee and then he ran the second term?
I don't know. You know what, Pete? I was surprised. I'm governor of New York, yes. But I'm like, really? I totally blanked out on that because but... and now here's the other thing. He was born in Bar Harbor, Maine. Now this makes a lot of sense to me because my brother and sister-in-law live in Bar Harbor. My brother has served on the board for the Friends of Acadia National Park. Mm-hmm. And Nelson's Rockefeller, I believe it's his daughter, it's a big board, has also served on the board. I think she's still on the board. Every year, one of their big annual events is like an art auction type thing. And now that all makes sense to me because I think I can't remember what the daughter or granddaughter, but I think it's his daughter's first name is. But she's big on the art thing. Well, that makes sense because, he was.
Sure.
So there's the Bar Harbor connection because I kind of was like, how did Rockefeller end up, in Bar Harbor and taking up this cause for Acadia National Park? And well, now I know why, because that's where he was born and grew up. So, interesting stuff. So we have a lot of birthdays. I know, Pete, you like to count backwards 9 months and figure out what was it, like October or something?
Yeah.
But we have all kinds of famous birthdays today. Where am I? Let's see. Let's do one more. It is the birthday of the late Alfred Binet, child psychologist. Anybody who's done anything with, like Psych 101 would recognize this name. He was born July 8th, 1857 in Nice, France. He died at the age of 54. He was young in 1911. But Alfred Binet was a French psychologist who invented the first practical IQ test. And at the time, that was called the Binet-Simon test. Because prior to that, there was not really any way to, quote, sort of measure intelligence. Mm-hmm. Although trained in abnormal psychology, Alfred Binet never ceased to be interested in the psychology and development of intelligence and individual differences. And in 1899, he devised a series of tests to study the intellectual development in his daughters. He had 2 daughters, so they were part of his, scientific experiments. 2 years later, in collaboration with Theodore Simon, his scale for measuring intelligence was widely adopted. In 1908, so 3 years before he died, the American psychologist Lewis M. Terman revised that IQ test, and that was called the Stanford revision. Today it's called the Stanford Binet IQ test of intelligence. Binet himself improved his test in 1908 and again in 1911, right before he died. So, happy birthday to the late Alfred Binet, child psychologist and developer of the test that we know today as the IQ test. It is 6:15. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. We're going to take our first break, and in honor of the birthday of John D. Rockefeller, we're going to listen to ABBA singing Money, Money, Money.
Still there never seems to be a single penny left for me. That's too bad. In my dreams I It's a rich man's world. A man like that is hard to find, but I can't get him off my mind. Ain't it sad? And if he happens to be free, I bet he wouldn't fancy me. That's too bad. So I must leave. I'll have to go to Las Vegas or Monaco and win a fortune in a game. My life will never be the same. Monday, Monday, Monday must be funny in the rich man's world. Monday, 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 always Sunday in the rich man's world. All the things I could do if I had a little money. It's a rich man's world. Monday, Monday, Monday must be funny in the rich man's world. Monday, 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 always Sunday in the rich man's world. All the things I could do if I had a little money. It's a rich man's world. It's a rich man's world.
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
Hi, it's Bob Plass, and I have Wow, It's Tuesday, every Tuesday, 6 to 8. Wow, it's Tuesday.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
I did it!
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:19. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in the studio this morning with producer Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
So, I miss having all of Jay Pagluka's stuff in the studio.
It looks like empty now.
It does look really empty. Just for our listening audience, Jay Pagluka had his lights, and he really had it set up nicely for all of those local performers who came in and did entertainment.
Yep.
And you've been broadcasting that on Channel 15.
I still have plenty more to go. I have a whole bunch to edit, but
yes.
He's starting to get gigs now, and you really can't say you can't do that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So, So,
is he getting gigs, Pete, because of the outside dining
yes.
more? Yeah.
No, well, not only that, but there's a truck show that's outdoors.
Oh, okay.
That has a lot of land to work on. They're still going ahead with their event.
Yeah.
And then he's got a gig at the end of the month at Monadnock Speedway or something. So,
okay.
Yeah, so he's starting to get outdoor gigs for the summer, and you can't say no. And
well, no,
plus
and that's great. Yeah.
A lot of the musicians are starting to get outdoor gigs, so.
Which is good.
Right.
That's a good thing. We want that.
So we may start this back up, and we may start this back up in the wintertime. We may never do it again. I don't know.
Yep.
But we had a lot of good episodes. A lot of good musicians came in, so I was really happy with what we did.
So Pete, how, just again for the listening audience, so how are those being aired? Are you doing that at certain times, or are you just kind of filling in and you keep it on Channel 15 and see what pops up? Or
they're pop-ups, but they're also they run Saturday and Sunday nights at 8:00, and then you can watch them anytime on YouTube. So with the Nightsman on Friday, we had the Nightsman for 2 hours.
Yep.
And we did an interview in between. So instead of doing the normal format, I ran an hour set of the Nightsman, then the interview, then an hour set of the Nightsman.
Nice.
So that's what I ran for their show, and that ran over the weekend again, and we re-aired the fireworks again. So so we did the 4th of July thing. And I thought we're not going to delay that show because it's just, timely. So
Right.
Yep, and they had a great time. Great. So we had all 10 of the Brunos in here.
You did?
Yes, the whole family came.
Wow.
That's why I bought so much food.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot. I mean I'm trying to think when they've performed for us at the senior center. I think we've had 6 of them.
Yeah, not all the kids wanted. Right. Not all the girls wanted to sing.
Yeah,
but they were hanging out and watching the parents and their brothers and sisters perform.
Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah,
that's great. And so now the other performers who are part. Do you know how many you actually? How many different groups or performers there were? I mean, there had to have been. I don't know.
Let me look really quick. I can do a quick count.
Dozen or so.
Oh no, more than that.
More than that?
Oh yeah, because I'm up to 12 now. I think.
Oh wow!
I'm either at 11 or 12, and I have a whole bunch more to go. Hold on one second. Let me look up on the drive here. Let's see. Studio 120 sessions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
Wow! I was thinking 12. I thought a dozen was kind of stretching it. I think it's really more like 10.
Oh no, we taped a whole bunch. I mean, I have them right into the fall. So.
And Pete, what would you say is the genre for that? I mean, what kinds of music?
Oh my God, we had everything. We had from country party to I still want to do a show at Ed Bentley, I think. But we had folk, we had country, we had rock and roll. We had bluegrass. We've had blues. We were all over the map.
Yeah.
We had a band called, we got to retape this band because I feel really bad for them, called F-Bomb.
Okay.
And they were, they did mashups. They did some traditional covers.
Okay.
But then they took a song and they're playing the music for Metallica and they're singing Beat It or vice versa. Or, like Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
And it threw me for a loop. And then that's the show where Jay's monitor speakers blew out. They actually started smoking.
Oh my goodness!
So they couldn't hear anything. So the harmonies are off, and I'm like, we're not going to air that. But
yes,
supposedly they're playing at Geraldine's in September. So we want to take that show on the road.
Yep.
And make good going to them, so they don't have to come back here again.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah,
wow,
so that's
sounds like it was
do.
An interesting show.
It was, and they're a fun band, so I don't want to lose that show.
Yes.
But yeah.
But stuff happens.
I can't do it. Yeah. I couldn't do it. I'm not going to do that to them.
Yes.
I'd rather have a good show.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. Perfect.
So that would be 21.
Yeah, that I really had no idea. And I'm not sure if the listening audience knows. I mean, that's a lot of work on everybody's part. Of course, the band and the musicians who have to come in here, but you have to do a lot of editing for that too as well. So it's just really time consuming.
Yep.
And the actual filming, I mean, I'm sure Jay was here. Maybe
we're doing them like 2-hour blocks. Yeah.
Yeah. Doing the camera work and so forth. So.
And this is for a 2-hour block just to record for a half-hour show.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Half-hour to 45-minute show.
Perfect. Yeah.
Craziness.
Yeah, it is. It's craziness. It's a lot of work. Pete, I got an email yesterday from the Mass Association of Councils on Aging, and they are trying to. I think they're trying to do what we're sort of already doing, what you're already doing. I'm not doing it, but in taking the programming that the local cable channels are doing for their senior centers. And, some are doing more than others, obviously. And then sort of creating a library of those so that they can be shared. And I know you're doing that because our stuff is out there.
Well, we're sharing it. Well, it depends on the platform you have for playback.
Okay.
So we're only sharing on the TelView platform.
Okay.
If they gave me some other place to upload it.
Yep, I'm going to give you that information, Pete. I'm going to forward that email to you.
Yeah.
And I just got it yesterday, so I'm going to forward that to you and do with it what you will. But
I think the easiest place to share that stuff right now is YouTube.
Probably. Yeah.
I don't see why people just didn't create a YouTube channel and just have give everybody, all the local public access directors saying you're a contributor, you can upload to this channel.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, I don't know.
I'm going to forward that to you and see what you can do with that. But but it's a great idea because there are just some great programs that are being done locally from a lot of the different cities and towns, and if we can.
And if you can't afford it too, as a smaller community, why reinvent the wheel?
Right. Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah, we're sharing and stealing ideas all the time. And speaking of stealing ideas, I do have to talk about this a little bit. I'm really excited. There's a front page story in today's Westfield News, because I stopped by the Senior Center, checked out my copy, on an event that we're holding at the Senior Center in a couple of weeks. It's our Moolicious Curbside Ice Cream Splurge.
Okay.
So the idea behind this, and Lori Sapalik she always checks out our newsletter, and if she sees anything interesting, she'll want to do a story on it. So she's doing a couple stories this month. But she was really interested in this one. And, what I love about this story is that Joe Didi, of course, who is also one of our radio hosts, he's here the third Wednesday of the month after me at 8 o'clock, talking about all things Southwick. Joe owns Moolicious Ice Cream, which, by the way, has become Grace and her girlfriend Dee's new favorite ice cream place.
I know. I got to sneak over there.
So, yeah. So and Grace keeps bringing stuff home for Gary. So they're all excited about that. But anyway, Joe will have his Moolicious ice cream truck at the Senior Center on Thursday, July 23rd for our curbside luncheon. So we are having our kitchen assistant, George's famous meatloaf, mashed potatoes, a vegetable, and then for dessert, it'll be Moolicious ice cream. So, we have a sponsor for the event. Matt Garlow is sponsoring the event so that we didn't have to charge extra for the ice cream. Mm-hmm. So it's just the regular $3 price for the meal. So this is one where you do have to do an advance reservation, because we really anticipate a sellout. So we will start taking reservations tomorrow, July 9th at 1 o'clock. We'll have 4 phone lines open to take our reservations. And the only thing you have to tell us is just your name, obviously, your phone number, and what flavor ice cream, vanilla, chocolate, or strawberry, because Joe will have that made. Joe Didi will have that made in advance. So, I love the fact that it's a small business, and they're helping us out and we're helping them out during these, as everyone keeps saying, unprecedented times. So thank you to Moolicious and Lori Sapalik for she's done some great stories on some of the programming that we're doing at the Senior Center. So we just thought it would be a lot of fun to have the ice cream truck right at the Senior Center. How cool is that?
Our research department has requested you send him a flyer about this event.
I can do that.
You know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly who you're talking about, Danny Nason. I will absolutely do that. It's as a matter of fact, we were handing out reminders to our seniors who were coming through the lunch line yesterday, and we will do so again today, because we anticipate a quick sellout on this one, and I don't want people to be disappointed. So thank you to Joe Didi and to Matt Garlow and to Lori Sapalik for doing this story, and to Hope Tremblay for printing it in the Westfield News. So all good stuff. All right, it is 6:29. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. We're going to take our break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about my guest who's coming up at 7:15. We have lots more famous birthdays to do. We have lots more announcements to do. So this song is in honor of Alfred Binet, who it is his birthday, the late Alfred Binet, who invented the Stanford Binet IQ test. And this song is from The Wizard of Oz, If I Only Had a Brain.
What would you do with a brain if you had one?
Do? Why, if I had a brain, I could while away the hours, conferring with the flowers, consulting with the rain. And my head I'd be scratching while my thoughts were busy hatching. If I only had a brain, I'd unravel every riddle for any individual in trouble or in pain.
With the thoughts you'd be thinking, you could be another Lincoln if you only had a brain.
Oh, I could tell you why the ocean's near the shore. I could think of things I never thought before, and then I'd sit and think some more. I would not be just a nuffin', my head all full of stuffin', my heart all full of pain. I would dance and be merry, life would be a ding-a-dairy if I only had a brain.
Wonderful. Why, if our scarecrow bat in Kansas could do that, the crows would be scared to pieces.
They would? Where's Kansas?
That's where I live. And I want to get back there so badly, I'm going all the way to Emerald City to get the Wizard of Oz to help me.
You're going to see a wizard? Mm-hmm. Do you think if I went with you, this wizard would give me some brains?
I couldn't say. But even if he didn't, you'd be no worse off than you are now.
Yes, that's true.
But maybe you better not. I've got a witch mad at me, and you might get into trouble.
Witch? I'm not afraid of a witch. I'm not afraid of anything. Oh, except a lighted match.
I don't blame you for that.
But I'd face a whole box full of them for the chance of getting some brains. Look, I won't be any trouble because I don't eat a thing. And I won't try to manage things because I can't think. Won't you take me with you?
Why, of course I will.
Hooray! We're off to see a wizard!
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Underwriting support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Greater Westfield Chamber of Commerce, the voice of business for the Greater Westfield communities. Informing, educating, advocating, the Chamber provides opportunities for members to make meaningful connections on local, regional, and state levels. For more information on the Chamber's many events, workshops, and programs, as well as the benefits of membership, visit westfieldbiz.org. The Chamber focuses on the most important economy, yours.
Join us every Thursday morning
from 6 until at least 7:30.
Check out the Bobby G and Company Show
right here on WSKB 89.5
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:33. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and Pete Coles, the chairman of the board, the producer of the show, is behind his glass. He's in his secluded, glassed-in studio back there. So Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
You know what? Listening to that, to the song, If I Only Had a Brain, just reminded me of, The Wizard of Oz. What a classic movie. So it made me, want to go home and get out my DVD of The Wizard of Oz. So Gary and I started this tradition. This is like our Saturday evening COVID, coronavirus tradition of watching some movies. We have a whole DVD collection, and, it's kind of been sitting there growing over the years. Mm-hmm. So for our anniversary last weekend, I said to Gary, one of the things that I really wanted to do was, have like a date night on Saturday night. And I said, let's watch a movie. So here's what we did. So I picked out, I said, it's got to be, sort of a romantic movie, like a romantic comedy or something like that. So I picked out, 6 or 8 movies from our collection. And I said to Gary, okay, you choose which one we're going to watch. So he did that. So I said, all right. I said, let's do this. We'll do this every Saturday, and we'll just flip it. So this past Saturday, he picked out 3, and I got to choose. And we watched, so we're watching these movies that we haven't seen in years. So we watched The Shawshank Redemption.
Okay.
Oh, my God. What a great flick. I mean, we saw it once. I think we saw it when it was on TV, and it was, I don't know, a million years ago. I feel like Grace was just a baby at the time. Mm-hmm. And so we bought the DVD because we just kind of wanted it in our collection. And I don't know that we might have watched it one other time, but that is such a great movie starring Timothy Robbins and Morgan Freeman.
Yep.
What a great classic film. It's, it's disturbing, and it's one of those films that kind of stays with you. So we'll do this every other week. We get to, narrow it down and then let the other person choose. So I have to kind of figure out which one. But that's a lot of fun. And I think people are doing those kinds of things, sort of
sure.
taking out their photo albums. Now we have the time to do that as we're all sort of still semi-sheltering in place.
Yep.
So my guest at 7:15 this morning is Beth Cardillo. Beth is the executive director of Armbrook Village. And over the years, we have had Beth on this show several times, just, kind of giving us some information about Armbrook Village and senior living, assisted living, independent living. We've talked about a variety of projects that Beth has worked on, dementia-friendly Westfield, some other projects. But I contacted Beth because we are seeing, and it's not just our Council on Aging, it's councils on aging across the state. We are seeing an uptick in problems for individuals with dementia, Alzheimer's disease, confusion, depression, as people are isolating more and more, sheltering in place, and as, caregivers, professional caregivers are, more limited, or they're getting sick and they're not able to help regular family caregivers out, it's creating a whole host of problems for the folks with dementias and Alzheimer's, as well as their families and their caregivers. So I want to talk to Beth a little bit about how and why COVID has kind of brought this out. Yep. And then if there are strategies, especially for families and loved ones, that would be helpful for them to implement during these, again, as everyone keeps saying, these unprecedented times. And, it is the phrase to use because it really is, for us in our generation, we have not had to deal with anything like this. So Beth will be on at 7:15, and we will talk to her about that topic. Let's go through some more birthdays. We have a couple more birthdays. We have a few singers, very different singers. So we have country singer, songwriter Toby Keith. He was born July 8th, 1961 in Clinton, Oklahoma. He's 59 years old today. And Pete, he has only one more year until he can be a member of the Westfield Senior Center as soon as he turns 60. So, I'm dangling that carrot for him. So Toby Keith's self-titled debut album went platinum in 1993. In reaction to the events of 9/11, Keith wrote the song courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue, The Angry American, which struck a chord with military personnel. Keith has worked with many country greats like Willie Nelson and Merle Haggard. He went on to release several popular albums, including How Do You Like Me Now, Unleashed, and Shockin' Ya All. He tried his hand at acting in 2008. So happy 59th birthday to country singer-songwriter Toby Keith. It is now going on the very other end of the spectrum. It is also the birthday of children's singer and author Rafi Kevorkian, but just better known as Rafi. He's one of those like Cher. Right, if you have a child or a niece, nephew, grandchild, you've probably heard of Rafi. He was born July 8th, 1948 in Cairo, Egypt. He is 72 years old today. One of the leading lights in children's music, Rafi is virtually synonymous with a light, playful style of song and storytelling. Born in Egypt and raised in Canada, Rafi Kevorkian initially launched his musical career in Toronto as a folk singer-songwriter, though in the late 1970s, he would find his greatest success when he redirected his performances and recordings toward children. In the ensuing decades, Rafi would go on to revolutionize children's music, starting his own label, which was the Troubadour, I think it's the Troubadour label, and becoming both an author and an advocate for ecological awareness in the process. He is, if you've ever had kids, again, 70s, 80s, 90s, Rafi was the children's, singer.
Yeah, right.
We actually saw him. I took before Grace was born, but Gary and I took, my sister-in-law came and visited, and we took our niece to a concert at Springfield Symphony Hall. He played there. He doesn't like to play in big venues, and he has turned down, like the Madison Square Garden kind of venues because he said he can't connect with the kids when the room is that big, because he does do a lot of participatory kinds of music. And so I think that Symphony Hall in Springfield was probably about as big as he would go. And we were actually kind of toward the back, but again, that's a pretty it's a pretty good sized theater. It's it's just even in the back you feel like you're part of the the performance.
Yep.
So he did a great job. And the thing that stood out for Rafi when he was doing children's songs is he kind of felt like up until that time, kids' songs were, they were kind of cheesy, and sort of the producers, the song producers were just going for whatever was kind of leftover music. And he really did his lyrics. He tried to incorporate, it was kind of like a Sesame Street, sort of tried to incorporate a message and learning and something kids could relate to and participate in. So I'm a huge Rafi fan, so we will certainly play one of his fun songs later on in the show. Let's see. It is also the birthday of the late John Pemberton. He was a pharmacist and an inventor. He was born July 8th, 1831 in Knoxville, Georgia. He died young, as well as Benet. He died at the age of 57 in 1888. John Pemberton, do you know who he was, Pete? Do you know what he invented?
No.
He was the inventor of Coca-Cola.
Oh, okay.
Yep. He became a licensed pharmacist in 1850 at the age of 19. And Pemberton established a successful wholesale drug business before being drafted into the Army during the Civil War, during which he suffered a painful injury. And at that time, when you suffered a painful injury, you used morphine. And so he became addicted to the use of morphine for pain, but being a chemist, he decided to discover a cure for his addiction himself. And he developed a formula known as Pemberton's French wine cola. Wine coca. Pemberton's French wine coca, because he used the coca leaves, which actually is the same thing that they use in cocaine, but it was obviously a much more diluted. He was pressured, however, to create a non-alcoholic version of the drug, because the first version was made with wine. A chance occurrence while experimenting with the formula led to the addition of carbonated water, so you can see where this is going, and the resulting taste was so appealing that Pemberton decided to market it as a beverage rather than as a medicine. So you took the carbonated water and you took the coca leaves, and there you have it. The name Coca-Cola was coined by his business partner and bookkeeper Frank Mason Robinson. Robinson, this is kind of cool. This is a little trivia for you, Pete. Robinson also hand-painted an oil banner with the curved letters saying Coca-Cola, which remains the company's logo to date.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because in this, digital age, you would think that somebody, sort of did something along the lines for the logo. But nope, that was the original logo. Pemberton died at the age of 57. Both he and his son Charles were opium addicts and met their untimely deaths due to the same addiction. So, but it was a pretty interesting story. So happy birthday to the late John Pemberton, pharmacist and inventor of Coca-Cola. It is 7:44. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield masses, and WCPC cable channel 15. We are going to listen to Toby Keith singing I Want to Talk About Me in honor of his 59th birthday.
About your work, how your boss is a jerk. We talk about your church and your head when it hurts. We talk about the troubles you've been having with your brother, about your daddy and your mother and your crazy ex-lover. We talk about your friends and the places that you've been. We talk about your skin and the dimples on your chin, the polish on your toes and the run in your hose. And God knows we're gonna talk about your clothes. You know talking about you makes me smile. But every once in a while, I want to talk about me, want to talk about I want to talk about number one. Oh my, me, my, what I think, what I like, what I know, what I want, what I see. I like talking about you usually. But occasionally, I want to talk about me. I want to talk about me. We talk about your dreams and we talk about your schemes, your high school team and your moisturizer cream. We talk about your nana up in Muncie, Indiana. We talk about your grandma down in Alabama. We We talk about you guys of every shape and size, the ones that you despise and the ones you idolize. We talk about your heart, about your brains and your smarts and your medical charts and when you start. You know talking about you makes me grin. But every now and then I want to talk about me, want to talk about I, want to talk about number one. Oh my, me, my, what I think, what I like, what I know, what I want, what I see. I like talking about you usually, but occasionally I want to talk about me. 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 Want to talk about I. Want to talk about number one. Oh my, me, my. What I think, what I like, what I know, what I want, what I see. I like talking about you usually, but occasionally I want to talk about me. I want to talk about me. I want to talk about me. Oh, me.
Underwriting is brought to you by Boise Cascade Distribution, providing products and services needed for building material dealers, home improvement centers, and industrial customers. They offer everything from engineered wood and plywood to Drex decking and railing, James Hardie siding, and Advantech subfloor. Located at 33 Fowler Street Extension in Westfield and on the web at bc.com. They are committed to providing quality products, great service, convenience, and value.
I'm Mark Auerbach. Join me every Friday at 8 a.m. for ArtSpeed, where you'll meet interesting actors, directors, designers, and musicians here in Western New England.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:48. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and in the studio with me is Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
So, Pete, I have an interesting, funny story to tell you.
Okay.
So, we are doing next Friday, the 17th, we are doing refund day at the senior center because we had to stop our fitness classes midstream back in March, if you recall, when we all closed down. And some of our classes, the ones that are taught by the YMCA instructors, they're pay in advance classes. So you pay for a session, a block of 10 classes, and we only got 6 of them in. So, we owe money to people, and we have had the money in the safe. But of course, when we were sheltering in place, we just wanted everyone to stay home. So we're going to do a drive-through refund day. So we are Mary Lou Najalski's in the process of calling everyone who took any of those classes to let them know this is what we're doing. We owe you money back. You're going to come through and so forth. So she calls someone yesterday, Pete, and the husband answers the phone. And so Mary Lou starts explaining the situation. And he said, oh, you know what? Just talk to my wife and let her know what she needs to do. So Mary Lou said, I can hear the wife in the background. She's like, no, can't you just take a message? And the husband's going, no, it has something to do with your fitness class. And she said, I know, I'm trying to do it. Well, Mary Lou had called her when Terry Summers was doing the chair yoga class yesterday at 2. So she said, so what Mary Lou explained, she said, yeah, you get this refund for your chair yoga. She said, I know, that's what I'm doing right now on Channel 15 is the chair yoga. So, let me get back to it.
That's funny.
So I thought it was a great story of, people who are doing exactly what we had hoped for, Pete. So she was a regular in the class and now is doing it on TV. So I think that we've got a lot of our regulars who were taking the class at the center with Terry, and I know that we've picked up some other folks as well. And just to announce to our listeners too, Terry came in and did a second chair yoga class. So this is the July one is different than the May-June one that Pete has been running.
Right.
Yeah. And so just so everyone has the schedule, which I think I'm going to start printing this schedule a little differently in the newsletter because because there's so much programming going on now. So Mondays and Wednesdays at 10:30 is the mail call class with Michelle Urbanski. And even though it's mail call and at the senior center it's all men, hey, guess what? You know, if you do it in your home, I don't know who's doing it. So you ladies, if you'd like to try it, go right ahead. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10:30 is Zumba Gold with Becca Perrone. Then Mondays and Wednesdays at 2 p.m. is Movin' and Groovin' with Dr. G and Grace. That's one that my husband did with Grace. That's kind of an all-around. There's a little balance, a little cardio. You know, it's a smattering. And then Tuesday and Thursday at 2 p.m. is Chair Yoga with Terry Summers. And again, as I just mentioned, so Terry did a second chair yoga one. So this is a new program. We had the same one running in May and June. We have a different one now in July. And then at 2:45 on Tuesdays, we have Nutrition and a Healthy Lifestyle with Jen Jafune, who is a local registered dietitian, nutritionist. And that's part of the Westfield Council on Aging Series Presents, and that's hosted by Harry Rock. Harry is on our Friends board and, of course, a host of Rock On Westfield here on WSKB. So thanks to Harry for hosting those. He told me, Pete, he's absolutely having a blast. He said he's learning so much. Yep. We're trying to do one new educational program a month. I'm lining up the one for August to be taped in July. So I sent out an email yesterday, so I won't let you know how that goes yet until I hear back from that person. And of course, as Pete said, he is also airing all of these city meetings, and the Council on Aging Board of Directors meets on the second Monday of the month at 1 o'clock. So I just sent my agenda into Karen Fanyon yesterday, so that'll be up on the city website probably today. So that'll be on next Monday. So lots of good stuff here on Channel 15, and we absolutely appreciate Pete and Ken Stomsky and Jay Pagluka for all the hands that they've had in this pie. It's been great, and of course they've done some entertainment for us for some of our special events. So it's all good, all terrific. Westfield should be proud of themselves. We have a couple more birthdays to do. Yeah, as I said, lots of people being conceived back in October. It is the birthday of the late Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. Kubler-Ross was a psychiatrist, educator, and author. She was born July 8th, 1926 in Zurich, Switzerland. She died at the age of 78 back in 2004. Through her groundbreaking research and writings, Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross helped revolutionize how the medical community cared for the terminally ill. She left home at the age of 16 and was a hospital volunteer in World War II and entered medical school in 1951. And that was at the opposition of her father. She actually wanted to go to medical school at a very young age, and her father said no, she could be either a secretary or a maid. And so she, at the age of 16, left home and helped in the war effort and then entered med school in 51. In 1962, Kubler-Ross and her husband moved to Denver, Colorado to teach at the University of Colorado Medical School. She had been disturbed by the treatment of the dying throughout her time in the United States and found nothing in the medical school curriculum at the time that addressed death and dying. A small project about death with a group of theology students evolved into a series of well-attended seminars featuring candid interviews with people who were dying. Building upon her interviews and research, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross wrote the book On Death and Dying back in 1969. And at the time, I can tell you, that was groundbreaking. Nobody else was even talking about that. And she identified the 5 stages that most terminally ill patients experience, which are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. The identification of these stages was a revolutionary concept at the time, but has since become widely accepted. And it's interesting because some people have even now compared PTSD and the current pandemic to, sort of going through those grieving stages of denial, then anger, then bargaining, then depression, and then finally acceptance. I will tell you this, though, having spent some time doing hospice work, I'm a social worker by trade and counselor, and it's not like people go through these stages and it's in a neat little package. They often go through some of them, some go through all of them. Sometimes they bounce back and forth, and the timeline is kind of all over the map. But it did give those of us in the field, and certainly medical professionals, nurses, doctors, and so forth, a bit more of an understanding.
Yeah, sure.
So happy birthday to Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. And I actually saw her as well. She lectured in the Boston area back when I was doing an internship at Hampshire County Hospice. Hospice of Hampshire County. That was the name of the group that I worked with. I was in grad school, and I was doing an internship up there, and I went to see her. She was in the Boston area, and I thought, what an opportunity. And it wasn't that many years before she passed away. So happy birthday to Kubler-Ross. It is also the birthday of singer-actor Steve Lawrence. He was born July 8th, 1935 in Brooklyn, New York. He's 85 years old today. Steve Lawrence had success on the record charts in the late 1950s and early 1960s with such hits as Go Away Little Girl, Pretty Blue Eyes, Footsteps, and Party Doll. Much of his musical career has centered on nightclubs and the musical stage. Steve Lawrence is also an actor, appearing in guest roles on television shows in every decade since the 1950s, including The Danny Kaye Show, The Carol Burnett Show, The Flip Wilson Show, Murder, She Wrote, Gilmore Girls, and CSI. He served as a panelist on the original What's My Line TV show. In the fall of 1965, Lawrence was briefly the star of a variety show called The Steve Lawrence Show, one of the last television shows in black and white on CBS. Lawrence is best known as a member of a duo with his late wife, Edie Gourmet, who died in 2013. So happy 85th birthday to Steve Lawrence. And finally, on the birthday circuit, it is the birthday of Milo Ventimiglia, actor, director, producer, born July 8th, 1977 in Anaheim, California. He is 43 years old today. Milo Ventimiglia enrolled at UCLA before landing a role on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and guest starring on various television series, including CSI Crime Scene Investigation, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Law & Order Special Victims Unit, and Boston Public. He gained recognition for his roles as Jess Mariano on the television series Gilmore Girls from 2001 to 2006, and as Peter Petrelli on the NBC series Heroes from 2006 to 2010. He has starred as Jack Pearson on the NBC drama This Is Us since 2016. For his role as Jack Pearson, Ventimiglia received his first Emmy nomination in the category Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series. So happy 43rd birthday to Milo Ventimiglia. And July 8th, Pete, this is so appropriate for today, which is this hot, sticky, humid day. It is still national. Foggy out. Yeah, it's still foggy because it's so humid out there. You could just cut the air with a knife.
Yep.
It is National Freezer Pop Day. So in the heat of summer, National Freezer Pop Day brings the sweet chill of relief. On July 8th, grab one of America's favorite ways to cool off with a frozen sweet treat. Freezer Pops have a history that's over 60 years old, and that history includes kids, families, friends, and summer fun. What's better than getting outdoors and cooling off with a Freezer Pop? There's a flavor for everyone: lemon, lime, orange, grape, cherry. The options are endless. From lazy summer days to busy sporting events, these portable treats please even the pickiest crowd. And I can tell you that I used to run in a 5K race up at Ashley Reservoir. It was it was a benefit race, and it was either the end of June or sometime in July. All I know, and the race started at 4 p.m. because they used to do the race, and then they would have a barbecue cookout, which is fun.
Yep.
But that's why you can't do it at 8 o'clock in the morning, which is when I prefer to run in the middle of the summer.
Right.
So it would be this 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and at 4 o'clock in the afternoon up at Ashley, there is zero shade. Even though you're running and there are trees all around you, at that time frame, no shade. So I can remember finishing the first time, and the end of the race is uphill too. So, it's just one of those, you just dog it. I used to say to Gary, I really, really don't like the race, but we were very friendly with the person who coordinated it, and it was in memory of his brother who had died at a very young age from a heart defect. Okay. So the money was going for that. So I used to do it, but I remember the first year at the finish line, they had water, but they also they had freezer pops. I got to tell you, they never tasted so good. I mean, they were it's so cold and so fruity and so delicious. And so every time I think of freezer pops, I think of that wasn't a road race, a 5K race.
Sure.
Anyway, it is 7:01. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. We'll take our top of the hour break, make some announcements, and at 7:15, our guest Beth Cardillo.
WSKB is provided by Bay State Dental. Comprehensive dentistry at 14 convenient locations in Springfield, Chicopee, Longmeadow, West Springfield, Belchertown, East Longmeadow, Ludlow, Northampton, Greenfield, and Wilbraham, as well as 29 Broad Street in Westfield. Bay State Dental makes it a priority to help you achieve and maintain the healthy smile you deserve. On the web at baystatedental.com.
Join us the third Wednesday of every month with Selectman Joe Didi and his take on everything Southwick.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:04. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield masses. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, producer Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
Pete, are you waking up a little bit there?
Not really, no.
Not really. Okay, still pretty tired. Pete's been, you've just been running a schedule that's, kind of making me look like I'm doing nothing over here. So
no, that's not true. It's just been weird.
It's been a lot.
Well, it's been weird hours. So really early in the morning and then later on at night, and then I try to catch a nap during the day because it's just like I'm trying to get sleep.
Yeah, I know. It's hard to get a flow going and a rhythm going when you do that sort of split shift thing.
Yeah.
That's tough. We did a little promo for Joe Didi's Southwick show, and again, just a huge shout out to Joe Didi, who is the story in the Westfield News today on the malicious truck, and our ice cream splurge at the senior center in a couple of weeks, does give credit to the fact that the only reason I thought to reach out to Joe was because the director of the Southwick Council on Aging, Cindy Sullivan, who is the same Cindy Sullivan who lives in Westfield and is on the school committee. Right. I think she's vice chair of the school committee.
Yes.
It gave me the idea, and we are doing a lot of sharing of ideas, sharing of, our local cable channel shows, things that we're putting together. So thank you to Cindy for kind of giving me the idea. She did it in Southwick a little bit differently. I think Joe did some deliveries to some of her seniors in senior housing. But anyway, thanks to Joe Didi and to all the small businesses that have really stepped up to the plate. I mean, there are just a lot of people that we need to thank and support as much as we can. So, as restaurants are reopening, whether it's curbside takeout or outdoor seating, if you're comfortable with doing that, please support them. They have been there supporting us. So speaking of meals, I just want to go through the meal options. We just have a few meal options this summer for our seniors. Of course, we have our lunch program at the senior center. Meals are $3. It is a full dinner. But you do have to call and make a reservation. We often have people who come through the line. Okay, I'll take a meal, and they're a little disappointed when we say nope. You needed to call in because we do sell out. So anyway, you have to call the senior center between 8:30 and 9:15. We do usually have 3 or 4 lines open, so the meals go fast. And you just want to dial 562-6435. Give us your name. You can call in for up to 3 people. So we do have, husbands and wives can call in for each other, and we have a lot of kids who are taking meals home for mom and dad. So that's really nice as well. And then the senior school lunch program, Stefan Zaporowski was able to get a grant to continue with that program. So meals are offered to the seniors, Westfield's seniors, at Abner Gibbs School and at Westfield Middle School from 11 to 1, Monday through Friday. Those meals are free. It's a regular lunch. It's like a sandwich, and I think it's like a sandwich and a piece of fruit kind of thing. But those are available, so take advantage, and they will be available through August 21st. So thank you to our school superintendent, Stefan Zaporowski, for really pursuing that grant, because I know that was something that he was trying to get in place, and that did not happen easily. So those are your options. Also, I noticed, I was at City Hall yesterday, and I noticed there was a tent in the back of City Hall, and I had missed this, must have been in the paper on Monday, but I found it when I was going through. The assessor's office offers drive-up senior and veteran exemption filing. And I actually saw a senior, one of my regulars at the lunch program, at the tent. So I asked him yesterday, I said, what was going on over there? Were you paying a bill? And he said it was for the tax exemption. So the assessor's office has a tent in the City Hall parking lot July 7th, which was yesterday, but it will also be there tomorrow, July 9th, from 9 a.m. to 12 noon for anyone who wishes to file their senior or veteran exemptions for the next fiscal year. City Assessor Robin Johnson said this is a trial. If it works, we will set a specific time every week to do the same until the City Hall opens to the public. So, that's great. We didn't know about it. I quickly made a photocopy of this, passed it along to my staff so we can pass it along to the seniors and veterans, and I gave a copy to Julie Barnes. So, yeah, Don said it was really great. They do, there was a little bit of a line yesterday, but not much. Okay, so we talked about that. I'm going through my newsletter articles and around, we talked about all that. Okay, one thing that I do, I have a couple things. One is we have, for those who are in need of incontinence supplies, we have incontinence supplies available at the Senior Center. We have an abundance of certain sizes and styles. So we have pull-up style underwear in sizes large and extra large, as well as the wraparound style briefs with the sticky tabs in sizes medium and large. So if you have a need for such an item, or if you know of someone, by all means call us. We'll do it as a drive up. You can just drive up, either come through the lunch line. If you let us know ahead of time, we'll have them outside. Or we do have a doorbell. The building is locked. You can't come in, but you just ring the doorbell. We'll have we'll have the supplies set aside for you, and one of the staff will deliver it outside. These items are really expensive, so I hate to see them accumulating in our medical equipment closet.
Sure, yeah.
If you need them, call us. I'm happy to give you 2 or 3 packages of the ones that we have. We don't have every size and every style, but we do have the ones that I mentioned. We have a lot of them. We keep getting more in certain sizes, so by all means, take advantage. I want to remind folks who participate in our brown bag food distribution program that that program is now being held. We are distributing the bags or boxes, whichever they give us. Lately, they've been doing boxes, on the Wednesday after the second Tuesday of the month. And I know that sounds a little confusing. We'll always have it in our newsletter if you get confused. But that means for this month, it's going to be next Wednesday, and you can pick up your brown bag between 9 and 10. We are going to do it a little bit differently to just streamline and make it go faster. You will not get out of your car at all. We will, but you do need to wear a mask when you roll down your window. We'll take your name, cross your name off the list, and we will put the bag or box in your vehicle, either in your trunk or in the back, in the back seat of your car. So that will be next Wednesday, July 15th. Pickup is between 9 and 10 a.m. And because we have to get that done before we start the lunches. And we have to switch it to the day after the food is actually delivered, because we can't do it all in one day. So that's coming up next week. And then I want to remind folks about the census, the 2020 census. All of you should have hopefully have gotten something in the mail. Probably at this point, you've probably gotten a few things in the mail if you haven't done your census yet. It's really important that you fill out your census papers either online. You can do it paper and pencil. You can call in and do it. If you don't have access to a computer, but you have the little reminder card that they sent you, you can call Karen Noblet at the Senior Center, because on that card, there's going to be a code number. That's your household code number. If you call Karen, 562-6435, call her in the afternoon, after 12 noon, she will go on her computer, and while you're on the phone talking her through, giving her the answers, she'll type them in for you. It's quick, as Pete and I talked about before. It takes about 5 minutes, but it really has to do with so many things are based on that census. And for us personally, our state grant funding is based on that census, and it will be once we get those numbers are locked in until, for us, for our funding, until 2032. So that's like the next 12 years, because by the time they do the census, it takes a little time to catch up with us. So, but it's also based on funding for a lot of other programs. It has to do with Medicare. It has to do with children's programming. It has to do with voting. I mean, it has to do with the legislature. It's got to do with all kinds of things.
Sure.
So it's really important. And we are trying hard to remind people, don't wait until the last minute, because the problem is if you wait, they're going to send a census taker to your home. And while we're dealing with the pandemic, the last thing you need is, somebody knocking on your door saying, hey, I'm here for the census. And then you have to figure out, is it real? Is it a scam? This is so much easier because if you get it done, they're not going to bother you.
Right.
You're finished. Okay. So call us at the Senior Center if you need help with that. We're happy to help you do it.
And your guest is standing by.
And my guest is standing by. That is fantastic. Let me see if there's any other. Nope. Just one last thing, which is remember to, and we are getting requests for face masks. Please remember, if you're wearing a cloth face mask, that you have to wash them. Wash them frequently. You can't wear them for 2 weeks. It kind of defeats the purpose. We have extra cloth masks at the Senior Center that we have been distributing. If you need one, honestly, the easiest thing to do, swing through the lunch line at about 11:45, because by that time we're getting to the end of lunches. You'll be able to drive right through, drive right up. I always have the face masks out on my cart, on my lunch cart. If you need, we have men, we have women, we have a variety of sizes. I have some mask makers that are continuing to supply us. So, always you need to have 2 or 3 of them, so that if one is in the wash, you've always got a clean face mask. All right, that is it. It is 7:15. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. My guest coming up after this break is, as I mentioned before, is Beth Cardillo, Executive Director of Armbrook Village here in Westfield. So we're going to listen to, I chose this song, Pete. This song is in honor of the birthday of John Pemberton, who invented Coca-Cola. The song is I'd Like to Teach the World to Sing. And if you remember, Coca-Cola turned that
ads of all time,
song, they turned that song into one of their theme songs. So, but I thought, this is just a great song it's kind of a feel-good song. So we'll listen to that, and then Beth Cardillo.
I'd like to build the world a home and furnish it with love. Grow apple trees and honey bees and snow white turtle doves. I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. I'd like to hold it in my arms and keep it company. I'd like to see the world for once all standing hand in hand and hear them echo through the hills for peace through
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
Saturdays were made for polka. Tune in to the Polka Jammer Network starting at 6 a.m. and Polka Hall of Famer Billy Bellina, Breakfast at BB at 8:30.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It's 7:18. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield masses, and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host. Pete Coles is behind the glass doing his producer thing. And on the phone, we have Beth Cardillo, Executive Director of Armbrook Village here in Westfield. Good morning, Beth.
Good morning. So happy to be here.
We are so happy to have you here. I have to say, Beth, that picture of you is it's beautiful. Where was that taken?
I actually had to cut off part of it. I think I was wearing our New Year's tiara. So I think it was at a restaurant in West Springfield at Bottega Cucina.
Oh my God, you just look so pensive, and it's just a beautiful picture.
Oh,
So you're very welcome. So Beth, I got this email from the Executive Office of Elder Affairs. No, it was from Mass Association of Councils on Aging yesterday, and there was an attachment of an article, and the title of the article is COVID-19 Pandemic's Disproportionate and Dangerous Effects on the Alzheimer's community, right? So I thought, oh my gosh, how timely is that? So before we get into that, which is going to be the topic today, how are you? Let's talk a little bit about, we haven't talked in months. We've texted a few times, emailed a little bit, but I know both of our lives have been sort of turned upside down. How are things going for you?
I'm good. Yeah, family is good. We're all good. What are you going to say? It's a whole new world out there.
It
right?
Sure is.
And we're all learning to adjust and change. And, I've got a son home who hasn't worked. He works at the movie theater.
That's right. He's at the movie theater.
So he's not working. And because he's collecting so much money in unemployment, he bought his mother a new kayak.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
I thought that was a fair thing to do.
I think that was very fair.
He's not paying rent, so I said all these years.
Yep.
Come on.
Yep.
So he actually
fork it over.
So he stepped up. Yeah. So we're all good. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Right.
And the bigger question is what's happening with the elderly, right? And what's happening? And I know you see it every day, Tina, because you guys are doing the whole lunch thing every day, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
And what are you seeing with your folks? What are they doing every day?
Well, it's really interesting, Beth, as this has gone on, because we are now over day 100, as they like to tell us at MCOA. What we've and in addition to seeing them every day coming through the line, we're also doing telephone reassurance calls. We've done about 1,000 telephone reassurance calls at this point. And now that's not 1,000 different people because we've gone through the cycle of calling. What we did was we made a list of everyone who has been attending programs at the senior center for about 6 months prior to the pandemic. And so they, kind of the regulars. So we looked at all the programming, those who came to lunch, those who did various fitness programs, the pool players upstairs, the sewing group, all these different groups. And so I have a staff member who's been contacting them. And very interesting, when all of this started and we started doing the calling, really late March or early April. And my staff person who was doing that said, people are doing well. And, they were, it's like, okay, we can do this. And so when she finished the first round, which was probably sometime mid to late April, I said to her, okay, you're going to start again. And she said, well, everybody seems to be doing okay. I said, really? Well, when you do the second round of phone calls, let me know how you're making out.
Tell me what you think.
Exactly. And just as you and I would know what happened is it's been a very different scenario. And I'm seeing that now as people are coming through the line. And the other thing that we're hearing about as people come through the line are their friends and their siblings and their spouses who maybe had shown some signs of mild confusion, maybe early, sort of dementia at the very early stages. Yep, some type of cognitive impairment. And the other thing is, or some mild depression, which now all of that is magnifying. And so now we're hearing those stories, and now the families are calling. And, some of for those who had, more advanced dementias, some of those safety programs like the Adult Day Health Center that my husband or my wife used to go to 3 times a week to give me a little respite is closed. So that's what we're seeing. That's what we're hearing about and seeing on our end. What are you hearing and seeing in your world?
Yeah, probably not much different. So, I can talk for like the next 6 hours and do a course on this. So, if I start going astray, rein me in here.
I will, but you just go for it.
Okay, and I just want to say I'm so appreciative of what you guys are doing, and I'm assuming all the councils on aging are doing this across the state, I would think.
You know what, Beth? They are, I think the COAs are amazing. We've been doing virtual meetings weekly with the Executive Office of Elder Affairs and the Mass Association of Councils on Aging. We just switched to doing those monthly. And then the Western Mass directors, and that goes from like Amherst to Brimfield to Westfield to Southwick and everybody in between. We meet virtually. We do a Zoom meeting every other Friday morning. We are, sharing ideas, brainstorming. The work that the COAs is doing, I'm so proud. I'm honored to be included in that group because I think, although the senior center buildings were closed and they remain closed and will be for the foreseeable future, but the Council on Aging services, everybody has just continued to do whatever they can. And of course, as you know, every city and town is different. We have different numbers of staff. We have different staff members.
Sure.
But I got staff members where everybody who's working in Westfield at the senior center at some part of their day is helping with the lunch program. Whether you're directing traffic, delivering meals, packing up the lunches, cooking the lunches, bagging the desserts, whatever it is.
Sure.
It's like, I don't care what your title is. You got to help with that. And so our day really doesn't start until noon to do our regular work. But you're right, Beth. Across the state, they've just stepped up to the plate.
I'm so glad to hear that because I think a lot of people probably have the misconception they're closed, they're all sitting at home.
Yeah, no.
All staff, and they may be sitting at home, but they're sitting at home working and doing something and making those phone calls because it's probably a lifesaver for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So my beginning of this is probably to say you don't know what you don't know. And I will start at the very beginning at probably the end of March is everybody was kind of ramping up saying, wow, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And the goal was to kind of keep COVID out of your building. And what happened with us at Arbor Village, and the story is not unlike others,
Sure.
We have independent living, assisted and memory care, that people were free to go in and out. People in independent living, they have cars, they shop, this and that. So it's not like they did anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't know very much.
Right.
So, one person comes into the building and doesn't feel good. And that certainly sparked a whole chain of events. What was interesting is, and we did have COVID positive in our building. We had about 30 residents probably.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit more than that, and staff. And I think the beginning of it is we didn't know what we didn't know.
Right.
So we initially had residents that had not one of the symptoms that you read about.
Right.
There wasn't problems with respiratory issues. there wasn't a high fever. And those were kind of the big markers that were being publicized.
Yes.
It starts with respiratory stuff, problems breathing. And I recall the first person that had it kind of just almost passed out from fatigue. He just was so exhausted he could barely stand. And the hospitals and the EMTs were under orders not to take people to the hospital if they didn't have these specific symptoms.
Right.
So it started out, and then we started seeing a few more people that had totally different symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
They had increased confusion. They had hallucinations, a lot of vertigo.
Okay.
A lot of that, and just generalized weakness and fatigue. And that was what we were seeing, loss of smell, which obviously has become a little bit of a trademark, but it wasn't then. And so we were calling EMTs, and they were saying, we can't take them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't think that's what they have.
Yep.
And if they did get to the hospital, the ER was saying, you know, I think they're just dehydrated.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what they have.
Mm-hmm.
And then, to be honest, it got to the point where we were seeing more and more people, and I knew they had it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all of a sudden you have a string of people with these weird symptoms. What else is it going to be, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's no fault of anybody.
Yeah.
What the, disease control center was saying, what everybody was saying was, these are the symptoms. So finally, after we had quite a few, I called Ron Bryant at Noble, and he really helped me. And I said, Ron, I got to do something here. And this is when Holy Oak Soldiers Home was getting all this publicity. I said, I am not going to turn into another Holy Oak Soldiers Home. And believe me, it won't be from my lack of trying. And then at that point, Dr. Percy?
Oh, yeah, Percy. Yeah, Britt Percy.
Britt Percy called me the next day. He's a disease infection doctor. I had the emergency disaster doctor calling me, and I said, this is what we're seeing. You got to help me. You got to let him in the hospital. And they sent a team of people in the next day. They did assessments, sent them all to the hospital, and sure enough, that's what they had.
Yep.
So I think we kind of helped diagnose some of the other symptoms that were going on early on in the game.
Yes.
After that, nobody ever questioned us again, right?
Well, and I think the other thing, too, Beth, to remind folks was that early in the game, when you were going through all that there was a lack of testing. So they were trying to save, my understanding was they were trying to save the testing for those people who were coming in with the classic, the fever, the respiratory. So they weren't even testing. My guess is they weren't even initially, didn't even want to test your folks because like, hey, we only have so many tests and they don't have the classic symptoms.
And they don't have all the beds either.
Yeah.
So there's, so that is what was going on. And then certainly they realized, yes, you're indeed right. And so, and as more information came out, let's talk now about what symptoms are. It's everything and anything.
It is.
And in the beginning, nobody knew. So, and I think they have finally are saying now that this is really a blood vessel disease.
Ah.
It is microlights, I think it's called, of thousands of blood vessels that are clotting.
Okay.
And people are having strokes.
Yes.
All over the place.
Yep.
Because they're getting blood clots throughout their body.
Yep. And it's really interesting that you say that, Beth, because one of our volunteers at the senior center was diagnosed with COVID. But prior to the diagnosis, I said to one of my coworkers, her symptoms, I said, if we weren't in the middle of a pandemic, I would have said she had a stroke because she had a stroke. And then it turned out to be COVID related.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of younger people
yes.
were showing signs of strokes as well. And then there was this whole discussion. First of all, I have to say, I find the brain so incredibly fascinating.
It is fascinating.
And my work, I worked in traumatic brain injury before this, so, I'm all about the brain.
Yes.
So what was so interesting, the other stuff that was going on, that they thought that it couldn't get into the brain because there is a
the blood-brain barrier.
Wall. barrier.
Yes.
And then they found out it was able to penetrate through the brain,
Ah.
through that barrier.
Okay.
So this disease is it's smart.
Yeah.
It's like it can go into so many different directions in your body depending where it lands.
Yeah.
And so that was the crazy thing. The other thing that was happening that I've read so much about was the oxygen, people's saturation rates. They were coming into the hospital with so low rates.
Yes.
Normal is 100, 98, 99, 100. Under 80 is not good at all.
Yep.
They were coming in with 60. They should have been deceased at 60, and
Yep.
they were talking on the phone, and they were doing this. They still don't quite understand what that was all about, or was it so gradual that people were adapting to it at each phase?
Okay, yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that was the thing about oxygen deprivation. If people didn't get oxygen immediately, that was going to continue to, I think a lot of people didn't make it because of the oxygen.
Yeah.
So, it's fascinating. The trajectory, I can never pronounce that word, in the body, where it goes is fascinating. And I think every day they keep finding new things. Who, initially, no, this was, dangerous for older people. But then when you started looking at the numbers of people that were hospitalized, that every age group, except for really young, I mean, starting with 20, I mean, lots and lots of COVID.
Yeah.
And maybe not the same response because their body is stronger, but there certainly has been enough deaths in every age group. And what they're finding now is that the middle age, the younger 20 to probably 40, are a lot more cavalier about it.
Yes.
And that's what's making it difficult for everybody else.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Kids are infallible, right? Nothing's
well,
ever going to happen to them. They're fixable.
That's exactly it. I mean, they're being, college kids are college kids. I mean, it's like, it's a whole thing. Yes, I can drive after I've been drinking. I know, that other people are in accidents, but it's not going to happen to me. I'm going to be careful. Yeah, we get it. You hear it all the time. Talk about the brain. That's kind of how their brains work,
Well, it is.
So,
that's the way it's wired at that age.
It is.
And so that's hard. I mean, I have friends that have gone to weddings, very small weddings. It's a niece or a nephew that got married. They're my age. My age group is being pretty darn cautious.
Yes.
And they're looking at all these young, they're supposed to wear masks. It said it on the invitation. Not one young kid is wearing a mask. Not one young kid is social distancing. And I think that's the hard thing with the elderly. You just can't expose these folks to anybody in that age group because they're not getting it.
Yeah. Beth, what are... Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Do you remember early on, there were a couple of kids that were in, I think they were Springfield College students, and they went to Florida, and they drove back, and they went to visit one of the kids' parents that lived upstate New York, and the father wouldn't let them in the house because his mother was living with them.
Ah, I didn't hear that.
And... yeah, it was a great story. He said, no, one of the kids said, I have to go to the bathroom. He said, go outside. he gave his son $300, filled his car with groceries, and said, go back to Springfield.
There you go. There it is. Yep. Yeah.
But, yeah.
So Beth, I wanted, how have you responded, not you personally, but how have things changed at Armbrook Village now? I mean, it's under control. Obviously, we're months into this.
Yeah, we're COVID-free for 9 weeks now.
Perfect. So what are some of the, are you accepting new people in there? Are you, what's the policy now, and how are you remaining COVID-free? Let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay. So I think every assisted living, probably, at least in Massachusetts, because we're all under the Executive Office of Elder Affairs, has been mandated with the same rules. So assisted living looks a lot different than it used to look like. From the minute this happened, everybody was quarantined initially. So everybody was in their rooms. We're not at that place anymore. As a matter of fact, this week things just started to open up. But until then, we had no visitors.
Okay.
People were able to come if somebody really needed physical therapy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the visiting nurses could come, but no family members, nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody. Everybody was gowned up. Everybody had on everything. We had signs on doors for those that were quarantining because they did have it, and they had to wear staff had to wear the full gowns, the booties,
Yep.
the whole set of works, right?
Yep.
So now that things have calmed down a little bit, and we were doing at first activities in the hallways,
Mm-hmm.
right? Exercise classes because everybody was 6 feet apart. And then it was kind of, no, you know what, we can't do that.
Okay.
So everything really stopped for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing we were worried about was the same thing you talked about in your phone calls, is people are in their apartments alone. This is really the disease of social isolation.
Yeah.
And that's what, it didn't matter if you were in a building. I mean,
yeah,
it was limited. It was limited. And, you know, it's like when you're in the hospital, the highlight of your day is filling out the menu. And
right.
It wasn't any different, right? It wasn't any different. You know, our nurse, of course, did daily rounds, checked on every single person. We had to take their temperatures, and it was also just a good way for us to check in and see how people were doing.
Right.
So, you know, and then as things loosened up, then folks were able to go outside for a walk.
Okay.
And a staff person was taking them for walks, socially distancing. Again, we didn't know, is that okay? Is that not okay?
Right.
No, that was at the beginning stages. And then then it was, okay, people can go outside in larger groups, no bigger than 10, 6 feet apart. So then we were having entertainment come in our parking lot, and people were standing on their balconies.
Oh, okay.
And people were outside. And
yeah.
And then they also performed in the back of the building.
Mm-hmm.
And that was wonderful. That gave people it was glorious.
Yeah, that is awesome. That's an awesome way to do it.
Yeah, because people were still eating all their meals in their apartment.
Yes.
So we all know what that's like.
Yep.
It's lonely, and people weren't eating.
Yeah.
They weren't eating well. So then we started, okay, how can you have fun with it? So on Cinco de Mayo, we came out with a cart and wheeled out margaritas and alcoholic and non-alcoholic margaritas, salsa. Everybody, you know,
yep.
They sat in the door in their hallway. We kind of had a Cinco de Mayo party. So we started kind of doing little things. People were just so happy to see other people.
Yeah.
But now, and then visitors, families are able to come outside.
Okay.
And we had chairs outside and specific times that you could come. And we had a kind of patrol outside.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can bring food, but you can't share it. You can bring lawn chairs. So on good weather days, that was working out nicely.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
The biggest thing everybody lost, Tina, was the hair salon.
Oh, no kidding.
Oh, my God.
No kidding.
The hair salon. So that was probably one of the biggest things. And that just opened this week on Monday.
Yeah.
So, you know, we had to follow whatever the state had to follow, right? And
yes.
that was probably the biggest question that everybody had.
Yeah.
So I will say, as a company, we have 18 other communities. Initially, we spoke, all the executive directors and nurses, probably 3 times a week on a Zoom call.
Yep.
Trying to get it right.
Yeah.
Right? And we had somebody that just drove around once a week and delivered more PPE for us.
Yep.
So, and I have to have a big shout out to the City of Westfield Department of Health and Massachusetts Emergency Management. Jim Wiggs.
Yep.
Is that his name?
Yep. Jim Wiggs. Yep.
And Dem Levena. I gotta tell you, Jim. I didn't know if I was talking to a guy who was 20 or 100, but he was the nicest guy.
Yep.
I probably spoke to him more than once a day, twice a day, 3
yep.
times a day in the beginning. This is what we need. He would deliver things to us, calling just to see how we were doing every day. Same thing with Deb. And the City of Westfield was wonderful.
I have to tell you, I have to tell you, and thank you for that shout out, because I think that I've said this before, and having been in contact with lots of other directors, COA directors across the state, not every city and town does it the way Westfield does. I mean, immediately, and because this is not the first disaster, although it certainly is the first disaster of this type, but that emergency management group, we start doing phone calls initially, depending on the emergency. It might be every day. It's at different, they'll set up the time. They keep expanding who's in there. There are obviously a number of department heads, but Jim Wiggs has done this so many times that he, just gets in the people that you need and the people that you don't think about. It's like you think about the medical personnel and obviously the public health department and DPW, but you don't necessarily think about like the city purchaser. And yet Tammy is the one who can help to get all of these supplies that we need, or the building inspector. I mean, there's just so much. It's such a coordinated effort for the city. And I knew that they were working with Armbrook. I knew that they were, early on, I was hearing from the city side. So I knew Joe Rouse and Deb Mulvena, Jim Wiggs were trying to, get you what you needed and work with you. So thank you for mentioning that, because I think that's important for the listeners to know.
Oh, absolutely. They were just fabulous. And then there was the HCMCC, I don't even know if I have it right, based out of Greenfield.
Yes.
You were able to order kind of the regional supply or whatever. We were able to order things from them. And then people were just making masks. There was the mask binders, this group, that group, personal friends. I had lawyers that I know that were making masks. And at night, I was like the mask bandit. I was driving around picking up masks for all these people that were making them for us.
Yep.
And people would say, I'm going to leave it by my front gate under the rock.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like,
it's like it's in the milk box.
To their house, find the rock. Oh, there's the bag. Jane Barrientos is a local artist in West Springfield.
Yes.
She was making me masks. She would leave them on the porch of her house, and I would leave her some money. And she didn't want any money. Nobody wanted money. No. I felt like I had to pay them for materials. I had a friend in Chicopee who works at Glen Meadow who was making them. She donated 50, 60. My Dragon Boat friends, the ones that are retired, they donated probably 100 masks to us.
Yeah.
So that's what I was doing at night, picking up masks.
Yep. Actually, Lori Sapalik is going to be doing a story in the Westfield News coming up. She and I have been in contact because I still have people that are making masks for the senior center. Because we're now at the point where everybody has at least one, I think, but you need more than that because you have to wash them. Right. So we are, trying to get more masks. So I still have people making masks for me, and I know Lori wanted to do a story on that because they were just, as you said, unbelievable. We ended up, it was interesting because one of the first projects I told the staff that we needed to, I said, listen, this is a great opportunity. There's nobody in the building except us. We have been going through every room, every closet, every drawer, every cabinet, every file. I mean, we are just cleaning. So we had, Mary Lou and I were doing the Creativity Center, and right around the time that the mask makers were saying there was no place to purchase fabric, we found boxes of fabric from the quilting group, way more than they could, possibly use. Right. So we were going through all of that to pull out, I had staff going through these boxes of fabric, find the cotton fabric, find the pieces that are big enough. And then we sent Kristen Mello, Counselor Mello came over because she was part of the mask making Westfield team, picked up like 3 big boxes of fabric to take to the mask makers. Then we were all trying to find elastic. I mean, it's been quite the process. But all right, listen, Beth, let's take a little bit of a breather here. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, I want to just spend our last 10 minutes or so talking about maybe those folks that are in the community with dementia, Alzheimer's, our caregivers. Are there any strategies for helping them out during this time?
So I want to talk also about the Alzheimer's support group because we're doing it on Zoom.
Oh, perfect. Okay. We will be back in just a few minutes.
Okay.
Go away, little girl. Go away, used to be alone with you. I know that your lips are sweet, but our lips must never meet. I belong to someone else, and I must be true. Oh, go away, little girl. Go away, little girl. It's hurting me more each minute that you delay. When you are near me like this, you're much too hard to resist. So go away, little girl, before I beg you to stay. Go away, please don't stay. It'll never work out when you are near me like this. You're much too hard to resist. So go away, little girl. Call it a day, little girl. Oh, please go away, little girl, before I beg you to stay.
Underwriting for Community Radio on WSKB is brought to you in part by Rockies. Over 30 convenient locations throughout Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Connecticut, and Florida. One of the nation's largest ACE dealers. Expertise and great product selection in paint, hardware, lawn and garden. That's Rockies. Rock solid service since 1926. On the web at Rockies.com.
This is Ken Stomsky from Ken's Den on WCPC 15 and 89.5 FM, Tuesdays, 8 to 10.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:50. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host. And on the phone line this morning, we have Beth Cardillo, Executive Director of Armbrook Village here in Westfield. Good morning again, Beth.
Good morning.
So let's talk a little bit about where would you like to start? Would you like to start with the support group, or would you like to start with
let me
sort of?
mention that.
Okay.
Let me mention that first. So we've been doing a support group for caregivers, for people that are dealing with family members that have Alzheimer's or other related dementias. And we were doing them at Armbrook the last Wednesday of the month at 6 o'clock with a dinner. Well, obviously we are not able to do that, but we are doing a Zoom phone call. And we didn't miss a beat. We started as soon as the building was closed, and it has been, and it is for people in the community. It's not just for people that live at Armbrook.
Right.
For their family members. It is open to anybody. So if people are interested, they can either call Armbrook at 568-0000 and give the front desk your email, and I will add them to my list.
Okay.
Or you can email me at bcardillo, CARDILLO, at armbrookvillage.com, and I'll put you on the list. And the beautiful thing that's happened is now I've got family members that live in Delaware and Wisconsin and wherever that are able to join in on the call. So now we have the meetings in the comfort of everybody's living room. And I had like 25 people last month.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't doubt that at all. Now, Beth, is it a call in, or is it on a computer screen, or is it on phone?
It's on the computer screen.
Okay.
So you give me your email, I send an invite.
Yep.
And we're all talking to each other. And
Perfect.
It has been a beautiful thing. And so certainly now I'm sure that people are seeing all sorts of things that wouldn't have thought that maybe they would need something like that. we have found it to be incredibly helpful.
Now, Beth, has it the date and time stayed this? Is it still the last?
It's the last
Wednesday of the month
at 6 o'clock.
6 p.m.
And the one thing everybody's missing is the great food that we used to have.
I know.
So I may talk my chef into making about 20 to-goes if people are interested, and they can come during the day and pick up a meal and enjoy it at home.
There you go, a little curbside. So let's talk about, Beth, those people who are, especially those caregivers, family members who are caring for people with Alzheimer's and related dementias
Sure.
at home, and, you know, some of the issues that they're dealing with specific to the pandemic.
Sure. So I'm going to tell you that the things that people have been seeing, and as you stated before, is the increase in anxiety, stress, depression, paranoia, cognitive abilities, feelings of uncertainty, not understanding, fear, and abandonment. And the list goes on, right?
Yes.
One of the quotes that I read in that article that you mentioned was, I feel like I'm hanging on a thread mentally.
Yes.
And what's the disease of lack of social isolation? And one of the things that we kept saying, which is worse, the disease or the social isolation.
Right.
So I think, and I think the whole thing is that we weren't prepared, right? This just caught us way off guard than it should have. And so if we have a round 2 or whatever, I don't think round 1 is over yet, I think we will be better prepared. But I think for a lot of families, they were really at a loss. So obviously, knowing that the Alzheimer's Association is available and other places and Googling things, I think it's to keep people as socially engaged as you can.
Mm-hmm.
And with the adult day health centers closing and the senior center closing, what are you going to do when you're just home with mom and it's you and her?
Right.
And it's difficult for both people. So I think that there's lots of, you could only explain what you could explain that the person could understand.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be able to get to that person's cognitive abilities and kind of match it.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
People don't need long explanations when they can't process that.
Right.
So you need to be able to talk in dementia language,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think one of the things for people to understand is, and we were seeing more paranoia, more delusion, is you have to meet the person where they're at.
Right.
So if they think they're back in the 1940s and it's the polio epidemic,
yep,
then it's 1940 and it's the polio epidemic.
Yep.
So I would say stop saying to your loved one, Mom, come on, it's 2020, it's not 1943, because it doesn't matter.
Yep.
Right? So you want to just meet the person where they're at. But I think having lots of tools in your toolbox is really what you need. And there are so many things that you could get. There are puzzles that are not childlike puzzles, a little bit more sophisticated, but big piece puzzles.
Mm-hmm.
The whole coloring books for adults. I mean, there's all sorts of people are at that level.
Mm-hmm.
There's great things. I just dawned on me, Tina, there's a whole program called the Savvy Caregiver.
Okay.
I don't know if you know anything about it.
I've heard of it. I've heard of it, but I don't know what the
details.
I
actually got certified. It's like a 8-week program
right.
for caregivers to help them work with their family member at home to be a better caregiver and for them to have a better experience for both of them. So Julie and I got trained and then COVID hit. So we're actually thinking about figuring out if we can do it online.
Mm-hmm.
And if that happens, I would love to come back and talk on your show again and give more information.
Absolutely.
Because that's exactly what would answer all these questions.
Yep.
So if your mom is at this level, maybe you can bake with her.
Yes.
Maybe she can do this much. If she's at this level, maybe she can just stir it, the batter.
Yes.
Or set the table. So it's things like that. And I think sitting in front of the TV is going to increase some of that isolation, all that free time and not doing anything with it kind of misfires your brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
You really want to fire up the brain and try to get people to be working on habilitation, doing things.
Yep.
And I think that's probably the biggest thing. And It could just be folding laundry.
Well,
But
I was just going to say,
purpose.
right. I was going to say folding laundry when you were talking about you can just stir it. And I can remember, like, even with my dad, you know, we would just have him like folding the washcloths or putting the socks, you know, putting the socks together. And if they didn't match, it didn't matter. But, you know, it was something for him to do and feel like he was contributing and helping out. I mean, what difference does it make how the towels get folded? You know, he would just do the best he could.
Just something to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just something because we all need a purpose. Maybe they're emptying the dishwasher. All those things. Watering the plants.
Yes, watering the flowers, putting the flag. That was my dad's other job. He had to put the flag out every day. You know, he would put a little flag holder. He would go into the closet, get the flag. If it rained, that was like his big thing was the flag. So if it rained, he'd be outside bringing the flag in the middle of the day. But yeah,
and that's important.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing I think is movement. And I think one of the things that we've seen, and we were we're trying now to get a TV station for Armbrook Village that you could put things on people's TVs so everybody in their apartment could get it doing exercises.
Now, Joy, Beth, do they get Channel 15, the local cable channel?
You know what? I have no idea.
Well, try it because we've been putting the fitness programs on. Pete Coles has been putting the fitness programs on. That's why I sent the newsletter up there for you guys. Because we're doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 10:30 and 2. That's the local cable channel. If they get cable, Channel 15.
Well, they do have cable. It's regular Comcast. So I'm sure they do.
Right. So Channel 15 and check the newsletter because on page 2 we have the fitness listings. Beth, I'm going to have to cut you off because I know we're running out of time and Pete's giving me the signal because we have something coming up at 8. I would love to get you back on. I would love to get you back on soon so that because I know we just barely started talking about some of those strategies for family members. So you look at
and if people have questions, Tina, they could call us at Armbrook Village.
Absolutely.
I'm always happy to talk to people.
Absolutely. 568-0000, right?
You got it.
It's an easy number to memorize. Beth, thank you so much for being on today.
My pleasure.
We will talk again soon.